So what are we talking about today? So we are talking about children's activity provision in a post-COVID-19 world. What does that mean? It doesn't really feel like we're post-COVID-19, but we're certainly in a different phase. An opportunity for us to explore what children's activity provision has looked like during lockdown, because it has continued, albeit adapted. What insights we've gathered from the ground during that time, but also an opportunity to look ahead, an opportunity to look into this next phase from this summer onwards and really explore what children's activity provision can look like, but also an opportunity to rethink the system and rethink how we engage children and young people in physical activity at a time where I'm sure everyone will agree, at a time where engaging children in positive physical activity experience has never been more important as part of this recovery, as we slowly move out of COVID-19. It's a real pleasure to be joined today by three, I was going to say panelists, they're far more than that, three drivers of this cause, all in their own ways, but really are champions for this cause, advocates for this cause, and work daily on this cause in providing children's activity provision, thinking innovatively in ways in which they engage children through physical activity, and have been on the front line throughout this whole process and throughout this whole phase in engaging children and young people. Before I get them on the screen, I'm going to read out their bios because it'd be really awkward if they read out their own. But yeah, first of all, we're joined by Renee Bowman. Renee is Group CEO of the Junior Adventures Group. Renee comes from Australia. Welcome. And has worked in 10 countries, leading cross-functional and multinational teams in both public and private sectors across a wide range of industries. She's dedicated her entire career to understanding how to influence behaviours to improve people's health and well-being. Welcome, Renee. I'll get you to give a bit of an overview of JAG in a second. We're also joined by Born Barakor, who is CEO and founder of Our Parks. Our Parks is founded by former athlete Born. You're definitely going to have to talk to us about what type of athlete you were, Born, in a second. Who came up with the idea of creating an accessible pathway to exercise for people from lower income backgrounds, by working with councils and agencies to offer the public free outdoor exercise classes. Superb. From the initial aim, I think, Born, of getting 500 people fit for free in Waltham Forest, Our Parks has grown across the UK and are seeing lots and lots of people up and down the country get involved in that, which is superb. And then we're joined by Scott. Scott is Programme Manager for Children and Young People at Rochdale Borough-wide Cultural Trust, otherwise known as Link for Life, developing sport and physical activity across the borough with a focus on increasing opportunities for disadvantaged families and communities. Scott's got 20 years of experience working in sport for development, and we're definitely going to have to unpack this as winner of 3 National Street Games Awards, which we're all keen to learn about there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully this works. And by doing so, I think I'm going to bring everyone onto the screen. I've got Born, got Renee, got Scott. Superb. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Is everyone unmuted? Unmute is now the most said phrase probably across the country. But nice bios. But top line, Renee, give us a quick top line. Who are Junior Adventures Group?
Yeah, so we're the largest children's services provider in the UK. We have 3 brands, Sherpa Kids, England, Energy Kids, and Fit for Sport. Our emphasis is on play, movement, and active learning. And essentially we do 5 services, so before school care, after school care, holiday programs, PE, and lunchtime activities.
Fantastic. That was the perfect elevator pitch. Good move. Okay, Born, Our Parks, give us the why. What's the mission behind Our Parks?
So we want to give everyone access to high quality exercise and coaching, no matter where you live or how much money you have across the UK. We are the largest free operator that does outdoor exercise classes and now online due to the current environment, making turn up, tone up and fitness access to everyone.
Fantastic, superb, absolute visionary in that. And then Scott, 3 awards. Why are you doing so well that gets you so many awards?
That's not me. That's the partners, the delivery staff, all the people involved with program. So I'm a part of them awards, not all just me.
Good stuff. But you're very humble, but doing some great work on the ground to give many opportunities to children, young people, and their families. Through physical activity and all the virtues of that. So guys, massive thank you again for coming today. I was challenged this morning by the team. Normally I open a conference or a talk with a warm-up or some kind of challenge, but as we've got the king of warm-ups on the line, Vaughan, I was hoping you might be able to do a little bit of a warm-up move for us all to do. And I implore the audience to join in. What are we going to do, Vaughan?
Yeah, so it's going to be some gamification. You guys have to be honest with your scores. So if you get it right, you earn yourself 10 points. Right? We have 4 moves, very easy. You can do it sitting down. When I say touch your left shoulder, you touch your right shoulder. If I say touch your eye, you touch your mouth. So hopefully everyone sanitize their hands. Then if I say touch your nose, you will then touch your chin, and when I say touch your ears, you can touch your eyebrows. Can you remember that? Should I say it again?
Give us one more. Yeah, say it again.
Okay, so if we say touch your left shoulder, you touch your right shoulder. If I say touch your eyes, you touch your mouth. But also it works the other way around, just so you know. So if I say touch your nose, you touch your chin. And then when I say touch your eyes, and when I say touch your eyes, touch your eyebrow. Okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Are we good?
Ready.
I'm only going to practice 10 commands. So maximum you can get is 1,000 points. So no one cheats, okay? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, we're frozen. Okay. I've frozen, but you guys haven't frozen. Okay, left shoulder. You have to actually touch your, yeah, there you go. That's how it works. Eyes. Oh, everyone's been listening. Nose.
Oh. Copy.
So yeah, chin's right. Chin's right. If you touch chin, you're right. Chin. Oh. Right shoulder. Remember your points. Mouth. Yes, someone got it. Eyebrows. Come on. Come on, just touch anywhere on your head. Ear.
Oh.
And then the last one, nose. Hey, well done.
Well done.
Everyone in your comments, just add your scores into the comments, your scores into the comments, and we will see who won. I think we had Scott, Ree. I think Ree, you won it. You had more than Jack and Scott combined, to be honest.
I think that's a fair assumption, Vaughan, to be honest. But thank you very much on the spot there. That is maybe that's the why. That's the essence of our parks right there. Gamification. You know, everyone can get involved. Very inclusive. Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you very much, Vaughan. I'm definitely going to steal that game and take that one. So beyond giving people ideas for new games, which is never a bad thing, obviously we want to talk about children's activity provision in this sort of post-COVID-19 world, if we can, if that's such a thing. But probably worth sort of setting the scene and a bit of context, because pre-lockdown we weren't in a great position. You know, in regards to children's physical activity levels, you know, less than half of all children and young people between 5 and 16 get enough physical activity a day, so those 60 active minutes a day. So we didn't have a great start. Boys are more active than girls at every age group during school, so there's a clear gap there and clear difference there. Children from low-income backgrounds are far less likely to be active, and are far less likely to enjoy physical activity or the physical activity that's on offer to them. Children with a disability or long-term health condition are less active, and Black and Asian children are more likely to be less active as well. So clearly the system, and this is all pre-lockdown, so clearly the system doesn't work. The system doesn't work for all groups of children, and we're talking big numbers here. And it would be great today to talk about how we change that. People's ideas on how we might change that, and how we might start to if not reset the system, at least adapt the system so that we don't go back to the old ways of marginalising different groups and only having a physical activity offer in whatever guise it is for for children that are already engaged. If we really want to shift the dial on this and engage wider groups of children, we do need to think differently, and we certainly can't afford to go back to the way in which we were, or sport and physical activity was being offered. So let's use that as a bit of context today, and use that as a bit of mindset today, to look forward and to start to think differently. But certainly learning from the things that were going well beforehand, because there were things that were, I'm sure, that were going well beforehand, but also learning from this last phase. This phase of lockdown. Schools have been shut, or at least at a lower capacity, since the 20th of March. Lots of children have been forced to find physical activity in new ways, and there, as much as there are sort of doom and gloom stats, and of course naturally we're seeing during lockdown, that percentage of children that would normally get activity drop, and the last Sport England report suggested that just 19% of children and young people were getting those 60 active minutes a day across lockdown. There were some green shoots. That same report did suggest that girls during lockdown were finding more ways to be physically active, and were looking more positively on their physical activity options during lockdown. Why is that? It'd be great to get some reflections from the group on why we think girls during this time may have found a bit more enjoyment or a bit more motivation to be physically active. So there are some green shoots, and I'm sure there are some stuff that you've found on the ground and ways in which you've adapted your offering to use to point the way forward and point towards how we continue to engage children and young people moving forward. And then I think maybe it's an opportunity as well to think about not just what we offer, but why we offer it. Why are we doing this? Why do we want children to be physically active? What are the sort of the holistic outcomes and holistic benefits to physical activity, beyond the physical? Why do we want to do this? Because I think if we start to really think about the why, then that will help us shape what we offer going forward. Why do, it'd be really keen to get your thoughts on why we think, why children enjoy being physically active, and what they want from that offer. And ultimately it comes down to will. It comes down to will and ambition of government. And at the end of this conversation, if we get time, I'm going to charge the panel to come up with, and sorry, this is a curveball now, charge the panel to come up with, if we had to develop a national physical activity strategy for children in this country, where would we start? What would we do? Maybe write some notes between now and the end so we can get some good solutions. But let's explore everything: workforce, facilities, digital, broadening accessibility. Where do we start? So maybe a good platform to do that. Before we look ahead, though, I think it's probably it'd be remiss of us to not look back a bit, and it'd be great to now open up for some questions to the panel. But and in looking back, what I think I'm keen to explore are, were there any challenges going into lockdown? And maybe I'll look at you, Renee, first. When schools closed or when lockdown happened, where did you find yourself as an organisation? and how did you adapt? What environment did you find yourselves in, and what did you need to do?
Yeah, look, I mean, like pretty much every other business out there, we definitely faced a huge number of challenges. I think for me, the first thing is that childcare, which is the service that the sector that we operate in, was not recognised as an essential service. The reality is that we've been operating a modified childcare service throughout the entire lockdown period, looking after vulnerable children and children of key workers. But of course, it's the ambiguity, you know, that presented itself early on of actually staff, you know, teachers, you know, heads of school not understanding whether or not they could allow us to do that, you know. So because there are other obvious essential services, you know, it was quite clear, but we were never kind of listed in that. And I think as well, a big issue for us has been schools and stakeholders interpreting government guidance differently. There's been a huge amount of ambiguity now and right back at the beginning, you know, around bubbles is obviously a new word, you know, that we're contending with, you know, whether or not external operators are allowed to be operating within the schools, whether schools can operate a hub model. So we had a lot of schools who were wanting to work collectively, which was great, you know, from a collaboration perspective. We've had as many as 6 schools come together to operate within one hub, especially where there's only been 1, 2, 3 children from that school who were categorised in the vulnerable or children of key worker environment. So, but I guess, you know, that ambiguity, we have been working quite closely with the Department of Education. We've been teaming up with like-minded providers as well to try and provide clarity on these matters. I think as well, we've actually, like many people, we've just had to become accustomed to operating in quite an agile environment. And we've been working hard to kind of adapt our services to accommodate the unique needs of every school, and every single school is very different, and every leisure partner that we work with is very different. And we're definitely welcoming the opportunity to work alongside everyone, and obviously, you know, safety for us has been of paramount importance, and it's continued to be that way. You know, we've had to adapt all our operational procedures. All our services undergo risk assessments. All staff have been retrained on COVID safe practices. We've become obsessed with cleaning like everybody else. We're ensuring safe bubble environments for children. We're adapting our activities, distancing, and actually children are really good at they've almost become brainwashed around social distancing. So they're helping the cause, I suppose, to make sure that people are constantly washing their hands, using, you know, sanitizers and so forth, you know, and not using each other's equipment. Yeah, hopefully that's a bit of insight.
No, really good. And just, I'm interested, what it all sounds very technical and operational. What was the experience like, do you think, for the kids on the ground? I mean, they're, like you say, they're pretty resilient, but what was it, any insight from the kids about that time in which delivery was slightly different?
Yeah, look, I mean, initially when we were just dealing with, you know, children of key workers and vulnerable children, you know, I think at the end of the day, they're incredibly grateful because they had somewhere to go. They had a regular meal, they had someone caring for them, you know, but it was a strange environment for them, wasn't it? You know, ultimately, you know, being thrust into, you know, into a group of people that they would normally not be in with. And we had some small groups as well, you know, so in some situations we had 2 staff members, you know, but maybe 3 children. So I think it was, you know, for them it was kind of scary, but again, you know, they managed to get through that. And I think, you know, our team members really stood up, you know, to that role model, I suppose, you know, and activity. You know, it's amazing how children forget about the psychology, you know, of things, you know, and actually just start to enjoy themselves through play and activity and running, and yeah, the things that we all take for granted sometimes, you know, became even more important, you know, during those kind of early stages and the middle stages of lockdown.
Yeah, really good. And then Scott, you slightly different situation, but nonetheless for the same reasons. You know, where did you find yourself? Obviously, you know, coming from a trust that hosts facilities, all of a sudden, not just schools are closed, but so are facilities.
Yeah,
where did you go?
Yeah. Back in March, all our facilities closed. So leisure centres, we run an outdoor activity centre up at a lake, we run a museum. All of these fantastic facilities we've got closed down. We do have provision that we have delivered for years, though, out in communities. We couldn't do that either. Couldn't go out, everyone was inside. So most of our leisure centre staff was furloughed. There was a few of us, including myself, that got redeployed to the local authority. And this has happened with a lot of leisure trusts across the country where they've just been redeployed for this emergency response, which it was at the time. So he was doing welfare checks, getting food parcels out, shopping. So you got swimming teachers going out, doing shopping for different people. And at the start, it was mainly older people. It was isolated. And then as time's gone on, we've started seeing families, younger people, the economic impact that it's had, people losing jobs, people that have been on 80%. So it's supporting them. And then the physical activity is still something we're all about. We want to try and get people active. But in them first few months, that's what it was, just meeting them basic needs. It was around food, mental health, checking up on people. But we're still supporting them people now. So now with sort of restrictions easing up, we're looking at programs during the holiday, linking in with school sites. So we've got 6 school sites that we're delivering in, providing food and continuing them relationships that we built up in the hubs.
And were you, Scott, I'm interested in that school delivery. Were they schools that you were working with beforehand, or is that
not necessarily? No, we've not delivered in them sites before in the past. Usually in the past, we've delivered in community centres, we've delivered in libraries, we've delivered in our own centres, and not as many schools really. So those schools who have been under massive pressures themselves, looking after the key worker child, the vulnerable kids, having to open up again during the summer. So it's a massive ask because they've still got to open up the buildings. They've still had concerns about what they're being asked to do. But this has pushed them relationships along. So, and some of the facilities are fantastic and they're the right places for the provision we're putting in place. They're the safest places for the kids to be in at the moment.
And let's pick back up on that, because I think there's an opportunity to explore that link between local community leisure facilities and schools and what that bridge is. But just moving over to Bourne, for the same reasons, but again, find yourself in a challenging situation. Bourne, whilst we've got the Prime Minister telling us we can go for a run around a park, what we can't do is get groups of people together. So what do you do? What does our parks do in that situation, Bourne?
Yeah, so 24 hours after lockdown was announced, we moved everything onto online Our Parks Live. So we created a whole new platform to host live workouts and host superhero fitness, which is basically our children's offering, where we was in parks, pretending to be a superhero for half an hour, and working on physical literacy, you're running, jumping, catching, throwing. And for us, it was a real big turning curve for us because it was bad news and we were very scared of what's going to happen. Fundamentally, we had to find a way to support our 150,000 parkers, our users that do it every week, and our coaches. So we were very scared, but then we decided actually maybe if we can be quick enough and we can assure everyone they'll still get the same experience, because it's all around being access to high quality free exercise classes. This is an opportunity to reach more people. So we kind of turned that into a way in which we taught our coaches how to deliver online. We developed a platform which allowed us to not only do these Zoom calls, but to capture the data and see who we're reaching, where they're coming from, and how we're changing the inactivity or the activity levels via doing weekly or daily online workouts. And then we kind of, for us, and we'll talk about it later, what we developed in terms of our program, we kind of saw we were missing a massive opportunity, as well as doing in the park stuff, which we love, and we're happy now we can start to go out and start to kind of get parkers back doing what we love doing. We realized actually we're missing a whole element of access to high quality exercise. and it forced many different organizations to develop skills which they kind of knew of but didn't do because they didn't have the expertise, or they wasn't pushed into that direction. And being pushed into the direction to do that, honestly, I think it's changed my way of thinking for the future and opened up so many avenues.
Great. Yeah, let's it'd be great to draw out some of those, Vaughan, as we talk about looking ahead. And then, Rennie, you're in a position where you get to look at a global picture. Junior Adventures Group operates globally. What were you seeing? What were you learning from across the group that you maybe applied to delivery here, or at least sort of were able to learn from?
Yeah, I mean, Jack, we spend a lot of time sharing best practice and learning from our colleagues in predominantly Australia and New Zealand, but obviously elsewhere around the world as well. And to be honest, a lot of the experiences and challenges that they've had are quite similar to ours. I think, in terms of, the sharing of resources, absolutely critical at that time. I think everyone was quickly learning to adapt in a new environment, and therefore, where we could kind of share and, whether that was videos or resources, for parents to help them kind of navigate and keep their children entertained, that was something that we really leveraged. For me, I think, there's probably 5 key learnings that I've taken from around the globe. I think in terms of, for me, one is communication. So ongoing, frequent, transparent communication between families and schools, because again, it's just so constant, in terms of that changing environment, and we need to kind of make sure that that communication is open and transparent. I think also just trying to, across the globe, really, everyone was trying to keep the workforce engaged and supported. Thankfully, in New Zealand, Australia as well, they had a very similar scheme to furlough in those countries as well, but also just around trying to engage them during that time. So I know in New Zealand, they ended up ensuring that each program manager learned how to use Zoom, and they would use virtual programs and share that across the wide network of families that are in their database, just giving children ideas and and families ideas on how to keep engaged with friends through games and activities. They also offered homeschool support as well. They recognized that homeschooling was becoming a real challenge for parents, so they provided additional support in families that were struggling there, and also just in terms of the Ministry of Social Development, which was kind of like Ofsted in this country. They also provided some in-home care to families of essential workers that couldn't arrange suitable care as well. Over there as well, I guess, and we saw some similar things coming out across the news, just around, wraparound care at home, just again, activities, to keep people engaged. But New Zealand's obviously further ahead from where from when we are. Since reopening, they've been offering free cooking classes, and that's all part of their mission as well, to keep focused around health and well-being, and that's something that we're looking to do in this country as well. I think aside from communication, collaboration, again, working, one of the unique things that we've done is try and partner head teachers in New Zealand with the head teachers in Ireland, so that they can share challenges and learnings with each other. I think now, in terms of Melbourne, for those people who don't know, they've gone back in lockdown, and it was almost like a lockdown had never occurred before, so they just didn't know what to do, and people were scrambling last minute again. So for us, it's about preparing ourselves and talking about, as much as painful as it is, talking about the what could happen or what if it happens, so we don't all go into a flurry if the second spike occurs. Yeah. Great,
thanks for that. Really interesting, that sort of global perspective. And then over to Scott and Vaughan. I think it was Vaughan who talked about a bit of collaboration and new skill sets. Scott, was there? Did you feel like there was a collaborative ethos when lockdown came in, and how people sort of worked together? And then after you, Vaughan, I wonder if you can reflect on that from a workforce capacity. think you're on mute, Scott. There you go. It's the first
It's
one.
going to happen at some point.
5 points.
Massively, yeah, especially with us in the local authority and our voluntary community faith group action together. We've had a good relationship for the last few years, but from March, sort of the collaboration between different services within the local authority, our Leisure Trust staff, all the voluntary groups and volunteers has been massive, and the trust that has been built between all of them, sort of trusting a voluntary group to go out and help, getting young people, supporting them.
Yeah.
And that, like I said at the start, that was around food. It was around well-being, because we couldn't get people out as much as we wanted to. But what we want now is to transfer that into getting young people, families active and build on that trust. I don't think in the past we all knew what each other did as much, whereas this has forced us together. And it's like, oh, you've got the gym and the swim, all right, but you do this as well. You got culture element that we've got. You got outdoor activities, but then it's the same for us to listen to the challenges that they've got. So we're banging on, let's get active, let's do all this, and saying, hang on a minute, we've got children in care that we're struggling to put in a home and place them. So before we sort that out, we need to, sort these issues out. So we need to listen to them as much as saying this is the offer to what the challenges is. It might be around community safety as well. So if a young person, you've got a teenager who's worried about the safety in the evenings or going out to a leisure centre because of the travelling to it or to a park or wherever it is, we need to understand that, because that's a barrier, and we need to be part of them conversations and listen to what the challenges are.
Definitely. And then, Bourne, reflect on I know you're a very public advocate of the workforce and building the workforce and making sure people have got, the right skill sets and energy. What sort of collaborative spirit across the workforce that you sense?
Yeah. I mean, we decided that we was going to, with our coaches, have daily or even weekly training around being able to reflect on what they've been delivered. So the beauty about this was you could then, when we were delivering the session online and you were recording it, you could then start to watch back yourself and analyze your good parts. So, and our coaches went from thinking they were a good deliverer to actually, I'm not so good at doing this part, but I'm going to focus on the parts that I'm really good at. And we went from, and I've been saying this for so long in terms of the sector, touching back on Scott's point, was we were forced to give information, and like Renee said as well, to communicate via online and our kind of sending that information to partners and people that are interested in what we do. We wasn't saying, okay, I'm big and people come to my leisure centre and they will see the poster on the wall. That couldn't happen anymore. So suddenly, the whole thing with data and open data, the sector were forced to do that. So it's a good thing. It meant that if you said the internet wasn't for you as a provider, or no, everyone knows what we do and they come because they see us every week, suddenly you have to change your way of thinking to be more inclusive and get more people knowing what you do and share good practice within the sector. So for me, that was amazing to see. We had people, organizations, and likewise that we didn't know what they did or we didn't share what they did. We're sharing it because it was filling an element of our delivery that we weren't delivering. So suddenly we had this whole kind of, it's all mine, no one can have it. It's actually, I like to do this, but some people doing some fantastic stuff which can benefit my users as well, push it out. And then from a coaching and delivery point of view, they got to see what everyone else was doing. So I would say ideas, everything you see is being recreated. They're just stealing ideas and you make it your own. So suddenly, if we can see what ideas are out there and we can steal them and repurpose them in a way which suits the people you're trying to target, what's that going to do for sector? It's going to make it better delivery, better access. So there was a really good underlying message, even though it was a terrible time for lots of us. There were some practices and some opportunities which we decided to educate ourselves and learn from, which will mean when we come out of it, it's going to strengthen the organisation as a whole.
Definitely, and let's put that into our national strategy at the end of this webinar. Open innovation. I love that. You know, sharing best practice, sharing new ideas, and how do we harness that, and how do we take that forward? How do we make sure that we don't lose that as we're in a less pressured environment? What's the aspiration there to keep hold of that type of working?
Yes, it's kind of not being an A-level student that reaches university and decides they're going to forget all the things they learn on the way to do a different subject. It's kind of, let's keep what we learn and evolve in it, and not say, okay, we're back outside, we're back in our leisure centres, let's ditch all that because we don't need it anymore. It's not actually, how can that run tandem with what we're doing to reach more people? And how can we still employ that ethos of sharing good practice? And I don't think they're competitors, so I think everyone will have competitors, but I think we're competing against other sectors. We're not competing against each other. So how can we keep that sharing good practice within the sector so we get more people moving and more often, really?
Yeah, fantastic. To harness that and drive forward, I think it's going to be really important. And then just sort of moving to present day, Scott, what's happening on the ground today? What delivery is happening on where you are?
So we've got 10 venues going a week at the moment. So working with the local authority. So again, building on a few months back when we couldn't get them out. So these families that was calling into the emergency hubs are other families and children that have been identified by the local authorities vulnerable. Coming into school venues, to parks and open spaces where we're delivering provision. We're including food in it as part of our Fed and Red programme, which is ours in the local authorities programme that we've been delivering since 2016. So they're getting healthy food to take home with them if they need to for the rest of the family. They're getting physical activity in a safe, all the measures that we've got to abide by. And that's what's going on at the moment. Sounds
like an absolute lifeline. What's going on the ground, and Renee, summer activities. What sort of capacity are you at, and what's happening on the ground as we speak?
Yeah, massive demand. So we've got 50 camps operational at the moment, and just working with a couple of leisure service providers as well to try and kick those off in a couple of weeks towards the back end of summer. And yeah, massive, very high demand, as I said. In terms of September, obviously we're turning our focus towards that in terms of the start of the school year as well. And yeah, for the most part, I think we've got about 90%, 93% of our schools who are wanting to come welcome us back and provide that after school, before school care service for people who need it.
Good stuff. And yeah, naturally high demand. I think we've sort of enabled to get towards summer without government having too much of a childcare plan, but I get the sectors really rallying around that. And Bourne, when I spoke to you earlier this week, in fact you were off. I think I was speaking to you on the run, and you were off to a school to support one of your programs. Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah. So with Superhero Fitness, we deliver superhero fitness across SEN schools, just to work on the physical literacy. And my son's school asked, could we step in and deliver a summer camp, a superhero fitness summer camp? And naturally, it was a thing where we have lots to do. As you can imagine, we are in high demand with adult exercise in parks and all the stuff we do online. And I said yes, because for me it's not our expertise, but I do know the kids and I know how we can kind of engage with them, and the parents will need that respite. So it was again, and then it turned out that delivering this new element of school summer camps was so rewarding for us, and we learned a lot. And Renee, you guys are so amazing, because it's so complex. It's not as easy as everyone thinks it is. There's a lot, especially when all the parents have your WhatsApp number. But again, within 2 days, we booking system, payments program, and we decided that we was going to also support the kids that hadn't seen their friends for a while with some learning as well. So we did silly silence, we did arts and craft, we did superhero fitness. So every day they do something different, and they come home feeling amazing because their best mate who I haven't seen for the whole of the year or since March is in a class with them, and it feels like school, but it isn't school because there's teachers. The teachers are there as well, so we've got most of the teachers to deliver some of the stuff as well, but they're not as strict as they would be. So yeah, for us, it's just amazing to see, back to that whole sector point, how quick people can adapt and learn if they are asked or forced to.
Yeah,
that's about like people just stepping up, and it was needed in your area, Barn. And you said it's not your sort of usual thing that you deliver, but there's lots of skills and lots of things that you can offer that is so needed. And it's the same in our area. I said we've got 10 activity camps that we're running. There's loads more kids in the area that if we could help, we would do. And without other voluntary groups that are setting up, other private clubs that are setting up and delivering, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. And
that's a really good point, Scott. And what I think we'll do now is look into the future a bit, but I want to sort of hang on that point you've just made, is why. So why is it so important those camps run? There's a need from parents to make sure their kids are safe, but why are these types of programs so important? And what are the sort of those holistic virtues and benefits of children being in those types of environments? Maybe I'll go to Scott first and then Rene.
First thing, so they're in a safe place. So it's that childcare element. For parents need to have somewhere if they're having to go back to work. They need that space for them to go to, somewhere that's safe. Obviously, the mental health for these children, what they've been through for the last few months, we're struggling to process what's going on. So these young minds that have been stuck back at home, they need somewhere that's a supportive environment for their own mental well-being. And then continuing on that past summer as well, there's going to have to be lots of programs in place where physical activity is part of it, but linked in with the safe, the childcare, happy environments, and building physical activity into that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. On the youth panel yesterday, I think one of the young people, they said that they just need, it's about having consistent delivery in their local community. They will come, and it's hard because we have to think about sustainability, but you might get only a handful of young people turn up, one day, but they'll come, and if it's engaging and there are those positive role models there, they will come. They want to be engaged in those types of environments. And just to reflect on workforce a bit, Rene, I guess it's all about the people for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately we're trying to retain all our workforce, and I don't think a lot of people realise, even just getting ready back for September and the school year, 3 million children access regular wraparound care in England, and if we don't get up and running again, then ultimately the economy won't get up and running again. People can't return to work because they rely on these services. And ultimately, for us, it's having good role models, having great people, ultimately they are empowering children, they're engaging children, they're finding activities, it's social interaction for them, it's creating routines for them. With Junior Adventures Group, we have a kind of a whole child philosophy, which is around creative thinking. It's about helping them become emotionally savvy, by adapting and collaborating themselves and, understanding sustainability, all those kind of stuff, but it's also about teaching them healthy eating habits, and mindfulness, and helping them become self-aware and build their confidence and build their social skills and that kind of stuff. And when they're isolated at home, and we did a survey a couple of months ago, and amongst all our parents, and 93% of the parents did want, you know, they were desperate to have summer camps, you know, and send their children to that, not because, you know, they were pulling their hair out, you know, but actually the children miss that social interaction, you know, and the routine, and the ability to just interact with people and learn different things, and expose themselves to different activities and so forth, and obviously our workforce is critical to enabling that to happen.
Yeah, so yeah, real holistic benefits. And then Born, you're saying that, you know, you've done something new this summer, you sort of rose to the challenge, and then back on that workforce piece, that all about the people piece. What were the transferable skills? What is it within the R Parks energy instructors, coaches, and then the teachers around you this summer that you've been able to impart some of that energy on? What is it within that delivery? What is it about those people that enables you to deliver those programs, but, you know, sort of get children really excited about being there?
Yeah, I always say delivering outdoor exercise classes is like a show, because unlike when you're in a building, you have your walls, and you're protected in that studio, and when you're outside, you're on show all the time. And you're not only on show for the people that are walking by, that are your potential customers, but you're on show for your parkers that are in the classes, and they need to see a sense of leadership to let them know that they're okay to be doing Zumba or okay to be hula hooping in the park, because their leader makes it safe for anyone watching in to know that they're not mad. So it's that kind of thing. So the coaches have this element of, I call it magic, because they have to have it. They have to pass auditions, and they have to go through training with us before they become coaches. And then they go online. They're almost used to being on show, or they're used to being able to do all the stuff that a magical coach can do. When it comes to children really engage with people that are confident and structure, and also understanding what it's like to be a kid. And that's probably why I like being a kid's coach, because I'm a big kid myself. And just using their learning from delivering against the most inactive people in London and the UK, there are skills that you need to have, which are the soft skills: welcoming, saying the name, encouraging them, those buzzwords that kids lap up all day. So as long as you can keep them motivated and make them feel like they belong there, and then you can also add in some, okay, if you fall over, you can respawn as many times as you want, and add some gamification into it. Suddenly, it just makes sense. And when we said to the coaches who wants to do the camp, I was so surprised at how many said yes, and how much experience they've had with kids in terms of delivering not only their own stuff in schools, but just playing with their kids or playing with their cousins and nephews and nieces. So there's a big workforce out there that want to work with kids. It's just giving access, and as everyone said the same thing, we need to find a way to not only continue what was happening, but to even broaden the amount of people that can access it. And that's the only thing that needs to change, is access. And I think with the new campaigns and the new strategies that are coming out, suddenly it's going to give us a bit more wiggle room to access more funds, to access more awareness around what we're trying to achieve as a nation.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think we're getting the spine here of this new approach, this strategy, and we talked a lot about open innovation. Renee's reflected a lot on the very holistic virtues and benefits of getting children together in these types of environments. I'm really interested in the environments that programs create. I was over at a charity yesterday, and just the safe space that they create in the middle of a park. It's a public park, anyone can walk through, but the sense of safety, camaraderie for these groups of children that were particularly vulnerable was there to be seen, and children really trusted that space and really trusted the coaches that were there with them. Just on this look ahead, Scott, just because it's your real area of expertise, we do have a real issue in this country. We have entrenched inequalities. You know, we know that children from lower income backgrounds are not nearly as active as their more affluent peers. Vaughan has talked there about access. This is about opportunity as well, about thinking differently. What's your perspective on how we engage more children from those lower income backgrounds, and what do we need to do as a sector maybe to really sort of enhance that?
I think first one, just building on what Vaughan said about training, qualifications and that delivery, how we deliver, really important. And it's not just about upskilling our current workforce, it's about the recruitment of the people you've got delivering, because like Vaughan said, it's lots of people that want to work with children, want to work in sport or physical activity, but the workforce isn't diverse in that way. So these training courses that we deliver, they need to be delivered in a different way as well. We need to go out into different communities, open it up a little bit. There might be people who can deliver physical activity and sport and they're brilliant with kids, but they might have not had the best education. So doing an online or a written test might not be for them, but they'll be a perfect coach or instructor. So we need to change it and make it more accessible for those people that are going to deliver back. And they're going to be the role models. So somebody in different areas of Rochdale Borough, there's if I go into a different area, just within this little borough, I might not know the kids and the different words like Vaughan said that they use there, or they might not instantly respect me, but someone from that area goes in, they see them and they think, yeah, I can be like them, I'll listen to them, I'll follow them. And it's the same across Greater Manchester, might be slightly different to Salford to Rochdale, and then across the country, in London, there's all them differences. And it's giving local people from them communities opportunities to deliver back. And I think that's really key.
Vaughan, you had your thumbs. I think there's a double thumbs up, Vaughan. What struck you about that coming from Scott?
Exactly what sort of scared around. I mean, and I always say this: it's the lollipop lady that she dances, she gets all the kids across the road to school, but she's never going to be a coach because she can't afford it even, or she doesn't know it's available. And that's the person that, whether it's the lollipop lady, whether it's the local milkman, no matter what it is, in that area, there's people that care about the area and they care about the kids. And the problem we have as a sector is that we don't give access to everybody to access how to do the job that needs to be done. And then what happens is it falls down to fantastic people that do it. But can you imagine if we could open the barriers and we had more people coming through, how many more fantastic coaches we would have? And it's definitely down to the way in which we recruit and the way in which we train. Because if you're academic, you would always be able to come through the ranks and become a coach. Same like if you're academic, you will be able to access that funding because you can write good applications. It doesn't mean because you have the funding, you are the best organisation to deliver it. It just means you have the best team to put together that application. And that's where we need to be looking at how can we make it more accessible for everyone to have the same opportunity to deliver.
So it's a really good point, isn't it? Two things on that. One, we're talking about accessibility here from a participant perspective, children, young people, but also people getting into the workforce, right? You probably miss a lot of, you're right, we miss a lot of talent and we miss a lot of good people out there that would be superb in engaging and energizing young people that, you're right, Ron, maybe because of the traditional ways in which we put a coach, up there, then maybe that doesn't resonate with them. But you're right, that broadening, that accessibility, I think is clearly a really good point. And again, we've got another point there, broadening the workforce, empowering the workforce, and I'll steal that phrase, Vaughan, opening the barriers, just open it up and really start to attract a much broader audience. And then just looking ahead again, Renee, I'm always quite interested in that link between school and community physical activity, and we've all talked. I think every single person and the organisation in which they represent today is currently delivering something in a school facility. Clearly, school facilities, I think, during this time have become obvious safe spaces and really good places to deliver. But what's your perspective on that important link between children being physically active in schools and in term time, and then out of school time as well? I often see them operating quite separately, and sometimes see schools as islands, and I'm always quite keen to build that bridge between community and schools. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I think back to my childhood, which was quite a while ago, I started every day. I remember I had a teacher called Miss Lorraine, and she would drag us out onto the football pitch, oval, etc., for a game of rounders. And that became a routine, so it stimulated our minds, I guess in the morning, and we got used to it. I think a lot of people complained to start with, and then they kind of, they just accepted it. So I think for me, the link between the school and physical activities is creating that importance, that routine, the discipline, the importance of physical activity, just as much as what it is around science, or math or English or anything like that, because you're essentially creating lifelong habits. I'm someone who, if she hadn't have dragged me out when I was 7 years old or 8 years old, maybe I wouldn't also have see exercise as a daily kind of activity for myself. So I think there's definitely that, I think more people kind of coming together and working again, that collaboration is absolutely key, because I mean ultimately obesity, overweight, is becoming, obviously it's a hot topic, but to be honest with you, it's still been there for 20 years. I worked as a dietitian 20 years ago, and it was still there, and I think it's, we know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. I kind of feel like it takes a village as well, to kind of help children establish lifelong habits and prevent childhood obesity and get people, ultimately every child is going to school, and that's a wonderful place to create routine and discipline, and let them be exposed to lots of different types of activity.
I think it's a really good point. And then just over to Scott on that, you've clearly articulated that sense of community during this conversation, and what role what is your purpose over the next few months in this sort of recovery phase, in that community connection? Renee talked there about it takes a village to bring a child up. Absolutely, mate. It's not, whether that's a village of coaches or children's activity professionals, but just looking ahead, Scott, for the next few months, what is your role in the community, and how are you going to help in this next sort of phase?
It's building on that trust that's developed, building on the collaboration with the local authority, with the voluntary groups, continuing to support them, not just sort of disappear now, especially the voluntary groups and all these people who've stepped up massively. It's continuing to look at children and young people and extend it to everyone. Like I said, this summer we've had to. It's been tough. You sort of say, right, we're going to help these children, these families, and the real vulnerable ones. But there's lots more children out there, so it's widening the offer again, making sure we just continue this momentum.
And a similar sort of question to you, Bourne. Two things that really resonate from the things you're saying. One is that you've been forced to do something new. So how are you going to harness that and take that forward? And the second one is the workforce adopting new skills and maybe not knowing they could have done something, but actually in this situation they've forged new skills. How are you going to harness that and take that forward? And what's our park's role in that over the next phase?
Yeah. So answer question 2 first. We've been funded by Sport England to develop a coaching qualification called Coach Parker, which will do exactly what we talked around, giving everyone the opportunity for access to high quality coaching at a level 2. So it's coming at a level 2 qualification. It's going to be geared around obviously superhero fitness and working with kids, and also that adult and outdoor exercise class environment as well. So it's going to be free, it's going to be accessible. So taking all that magic, taking all the learning, and taking all the stuff that we've learned from being in this current climate, we are going to embed that into the qualification, because we had the funding before COVID started, and now we know actually we need to make it future proof. So it's not only going to be what we thought it would have been before this happened, it's going to be everything that we know could happen and what do we do in certain situations. So that's why I was thumbs up with Scott, because that's what we are working to achieve, to give a whole new aspect to how we recruit and train coaches. It's going to be completely different to everything you've ever seen before. We're going to do the things that we know communities want to do and how they want to learn. And then from a learning for our coaches, we've learned so much from them as well in this climate. We've learned so much about their needs and what they're willing to do, and also how resilient they are when it comes to adapting. So for us, we've changed the way we audition now. We don't even say that you have to come to a park at this time and this date. We just do it on Zoom. we just do it because we can get the same amount of feeling and understanding from the coaches, and we added a few other bits in based on learning. So it's working with your workforce and working with the parkers or the people that are accessing it to give them what they want, when they want it, how they want it, and knowing where you're going to play and how you're going to win.
Good stuff. So we really are practicing that open innovation. Everything you've learned, everything you've trialed during this time, but also before, into that qualification. Was it Coach Parker?
Coach Parker.
There we go. And sort of that enabling others to learn from that experience. Thinks superb. And then Renee, a look ahead, but more specifically, what's your role supporting schools over this next period?
So obviously trying to help them navigate through the start of September and onwards, and just again helping them to interpret the guidance, and because we work with such a huge array of different schools and so forth, we can see the kind of the best of both worlds, so just sharing our experiences and what we're observing across schools, adapting our services to meet their needs, really, both the needs of the school and of the parents as well.
Good stuff. And I know I've classically massively overrun on this, but one question that's come through, and I'll ask, this is absolute on the spot, but we're going to go with it. If we were to write a national strategy now for children's physical activity, what would be the first thing you would focus on, and why? I'm going to go to Scott for that, because he was flipping away at the classic classroom.
Oh no. It's including the cross-sector stuff that I've mentioned before, so it's not us just writing it on our own. So health, I know like Sport England strategy was all around linked to health, the last one, but it's others. It's around children and young people talking to children's services, community safety. All of them have got to be involved in that conversation. I don't know about adding much more strategy writings.
Integrated approach, 100%. Yeah, start with that, definitely. Bourne, I go over to you. What's the first thing you'd focus on?
I think I'd focus on it being able for the parents to access it. So I think what we've learned in this time is if we put a strategy that's always geared towards being in a certain place, whether it's school, whether it's in a sports club, the moment that the access goes away, which we've seen happen, that strategy doesn't work. So I think we make a strategy that works for everyone, no matter how much space they have. And then you have it goes up based on when you have more space, you can do more of the strategy. So I would say we start at the most, let's say, vulnerable and the most strict spaces we have. And then we build a strategy based on, if we can still deliver that strategy in this room, the strategy is going to work. If we only can deliver that strategy on a tennis court or in a basketball court, it will work as long as you can get to a tennis court or basketball court. So I would definitely look at, based on what's happened, delivering a strategy that is future-proof for be able to deliver anywhere.
Yeah, amazing. You're right. Otherwise, it becomes inaccessible for people that don't have that space. Really good point. And then Renee, you got the final word on the national strategy.
So I would take the learnings from the impact that Greta Thunberg had, and I would promote the child voice, and I would get children to become the ambassadors of writing the strategy, actually, and guiding us on the way.
Yeah, 100%. Love that. What a note to end on, wrap up. Absolutely. Yesterday's youth panel was all about this concept of nothing about us without us. Let's not do anything for us without us being involved. And I think that is a really key message that hopefully has come out across this whole week. So I've got open innovation in my head. I've got broadening the workforce. I've got integrated approach. Scott, there's got to be more parties involved in this than just our sector, but potentially driven by the energy of our sector and the expertise. And yeah, let's put youth voice, child's voice at the heart of it, definitely. And maybe that's where we start with the why. But yeah, and I think the other thing for me is just harnessing that collaborative spirit. I've certainly sensed it through this time, and if there's another thing we can grab hold of and bring with us in this next phase, then I think that's going to be really important. Massive thank you, guys. Really appreciate your time. I know this is a hectic time, but to give your time up to talk to everyone about this topic today is fantastic. So yeah, thank you very much. We will capture all this and strive as UK Active to push these agendas forward, and I really look forward to working with you all and anyone who's listened and everyone who will listen to the recording going forward. Let's keep the kids active, definitely.